So, to start off today, I want to take you to the final day of sophomore year of high school. There's this kid, James, and he's out on the baseball field.
Right. Just a normal day.
Exactly. But then a classmate takes a full aggressive swing with a bat, and the bat actually slips out of his hands.
Oh, man.
He goes flying through the air and strikes James directly between the eyes. I mean, it's visceral. He suffers a crushed nose, literally bent into a U shape.
That is just terrifying.
It really is. Shattered eye sockets, massive brain swelling, seizures. His body basically just starts shutting down right there on the field. They have to airlift him to a hospital and put him into a medically induced coma.
And, the detail that makes this scene so incredibly heavy is the setting itself. Because when his parents finally arrive at that hospital, they actually realize they know the building.
Oh, right. They've been there before.
Yeah, exactly a decade earlier. They had walked into the exact same hospital on the ground floor for his sister. She had been diagnosed with leukemia when she was just 3. She survived it, thankfully, but I mean, after 10 years of normal life, these parents find themselves right back on a hospital mattress watching machines breathe for another one of their children.
It's genuinely a nightmare scenario. But James, who, by the way, is James Clear, the author of our source material for this deep dive, he survived.
He did, but the recovery was, well, it was brutal.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking 8 months before he could even drive a car because his double vision was so severe.
Yeah.
And then when he finally got back to his beloved baseball field a year later, he suffered this deep humiliation of being the only junior cut from the varsity team. He literally got sent down to play with the sophomores.
Which, for a high school kid, is just devastating.
Totally. Yet if you fast forward a few years to his college graduation, this exact same kid was named to the ESPN Academic All-America team. He became a top athlete at his university. He was setting records, earning straight A's.
Which really begs the question, right? How?
Right. How do you go from a coma to that? And the answer is, it definitely wasn't overnight. It was through these tiny, almost imperceptible, incremental routines.
And that right there is the core of our deep dive today.
Mm.
We're exploring the framework he built out of that entire experience, which is a concept he calls atomic habits.
And I think the genius of this framework is its absolute accessibility.
Oh, 100%.
Hmm.
The mission here today is to break this down so simply that a high schooler could literally explain it to their friends between classes.
Yes.
But at the same time, it is so powerful that you can use it to overhaul your career or recover from an injury or, I don't know, save up for a European vacation.
Because the mechanics of human behavior, they just remain identical no matter your age or your goal.
Exactly. The hardware is the same.
So let's start with that word, atomic, because it actually has a twofold definition in the source material. First, atomic means an extremely small amount of a thing, like the single irreducible unit of a larger system.
Right, the atom.
Yeah, but second, it means the source of immense energy or power. So it's small and mighty. But before we can actually harness that power, we need to understand what a habit actually is on a neurological level.
Right. And any habit, literally any habit, can be broken down into a 4-step split-second feedback loop.
Hmm.
Your brain is just continually scanning your environment, and it runs through this sequence: cue, craving, response, and reward.
Cue, craving, response, reward.
Exactly. You can think of it as a constant radar ping going off in your head.
So to put a real-world visual to that loop so we can really grasp it, think about walking into a dark bedroom. Step one is the cue. You walk in, and the room is dark. Your brain just registers that raw data.
It's just a fact of the environment.
Right. Then step two is the craving. You want to be able to see. You desire a change in state. Step three is the response. You reach out, you feel for the wall, and you flip the light switch.
And step 4, the reward.
Exactly. You satisfy your craving to see. And that entire process takes a fraction of a second, and you do it without a single conscious thought.
And you have to ask yourself, why does the brain go to all the trouble of automating that? And the ultimate purpose of a habit is to solve the recurring problems of life with as little energy as possible.
Because the brain is lazy.
Well, it's incredibly resource hungry,
Yeah.
so it is constantly looking for ways to conserve effort. We can actually split that 4-step loop we just talked about into 2 distinct phases.
Okay.
The problem phase includes the cue and the craving. That's when you realize something needs to change. And then the solution phase includes the response and the reward. That's when you actually take action.
So once you map out this problem and solution loop, you aren't just kind of blindly reacting to your environment anymore. You can actively hack it.
Exactly. Which brings us to the actual toolkit. The author outlines 4 rules, or laws of behavior change, for hacking this exact loop. And law number 1 targets the cue. Make it obvious.
Make it obvious, because I guess the tricky part about cues is that over time, they just become totally invisible to us.
They really do. Like, we don't think about why we tie our left shoe first. Our brains just do it. There's this wild story from psychologist Gary Klein about a woman who worked as a paramedic.
Oh yeah, I love this one.
Right. So she walks into a family gathering, takes one look at her father-in-law, and immediately says, "I don't like the way you look."
Which is quite a greeting.
Seriously. And she didn't consciously know what was wrong, but her brain had subconsciously recognized a cue. Maybe it was subtle changes in his skin tone, or, the way his blood was flowing under the skin.
Just something that signaled he was having a major medical issue.
Exactly, because our brains are prediction machines. They pick up on cues long before our conscious mind ever catches up.
See, I have to push back a little on this, though, because if these cues are operating completely beneath our conscious awareness, how in the world are we supposed to use them to build a good habit?
That's a great question.
Like if I tell myself, hey, I want to study more this semester, or I want to eat better, those resolutions almost always fail by mid-February. Why?
Well, they fail precisely because they lack obvious, tangible cues. I mean, eat better isn't tied to a specific trigger. It's a vague desire. It's not a directive.
Right. It's just a wish, basically.
Exactly. So the first practical tool to implement Law 1 is creating what's called an implementation intention. It's a very specific formula. I will perform this behavior at this time in this location.
Ah, okay.
You are forcing the cue out of the subconscious and making it glaringly obvious.
So instead of a vague, I will study more, you might say, I will study Spanish for 20 minutes at 4 p.m. sitting at the kitchen table.
Yes, exactly. You're anchoring the behavior to a fixed point in reality.
Yeah.
But there's actually an even more powerful tool called habit stacking.
Habit stacking.
Right. Instead of relying on a time or location, you use a habit you already do every single day as the cue for a new one. So the formula is, after my current habit, I will do my new habit.
That makes a lot of sense because you are literally just attaching a new car to a train that is already moving down the tracks.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
Like after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. Or after I close my laptop for the day, I will do 10 push-ups.
And neurologically, that works so well because you're leveraging existing synaptic pathways. Your brain has already built this thick, fast superhighway for the pour morning coffee routine.
The neurons are already firing.
They are. So habit stacking just builds a tiny off-ramp from that superhighway, requiring almost zero new mental friction to get the new habit started.
I love that. And that perfectly sets up Law 2, which targets the craving phase of the loop. And Law 2 is make it attractive. Because even if you've made the cue obvious, you still need the motivation to act on it.
Right. And to really understand craving, we have to look at human history. For thousands of years, we survived only by being deeply social creatures.
We needed the tribe.
We did.
Yeah.
We have an innate underlying motive to fit in and bond with others because historically, being separated from the tribe meant certain death. So behaviors are highly attractive to us when they help us fit in.
Makes sense.
We naturally imitate the habits of 3 groups. The close, so our family and friends. The many, which is our broader culture. And the powerful, those with status and prestige.
So on a macro level, if you want to make a habit attractive, join a culture where your desired behavior is just the normal behavior. Like if you want to read more, join a book club.
Exactly.
But on a micro individual level, like when you're alone in your house,
Yeah.
how do you make a difficult habit more attractive in the moment?
You use a strategy called temptation bundling. You literally pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, it works because the brain actually releases dopamine, not just when you experience pleasure, but when you anticipate it.
Like saying, I only get to listen to my favorite true crime podcast, which I really want to do, while I'm doing the dishes, which I desperately need to do but hate doing.
That is exactly it. You are using the anticipation of the podcast to make the drudgery of the dishes attractive. You're pulling the dopamine from the reward forward to the craving phase.
That is so smart.
Another tactic is creating a motivation ritual. You do something you really enjoy immediately before tackling a difficult habit. So you preload a positive feeling, and the hard task sort of inherits some of that positive emotional resonance.
Okay, but let's be real. Once you've tricked your brain into actually wanting to do the hard thing, like bundling your podcast with doing the dishes, you still actually have to do the dishes.
Unfortunately, yes.
And that's where human laziness threatens to derail the whole thing. Which brings us to Law 3, targeting the response. Make it easy.
And this is grounded in what behavioral scientists call the law of least effort.
Which sounds like my kind of law.
Right. But it's an evolutionary truth. Energy is precious. If you have two options that yield similar rewards, you will naturally, biologically gravitate toward the option requiring the least amount of work.
Okay, so what does that mean for everyday life? Like if I want to build a habit of sitting down to write every morning, but my desk is covered in mail and old coffee cups.
That clutter is friction.
Yeah, I have to spend 10 minutes cleaning before I can even start the habit.
And honestly, that friction is usually enough to kill the habit entirely.
Yeah.
You'll just say, I'll do it tomorrow.
Exactly. So what's the fix?
The counter strategy is priming the environment. You prepare your space to make future actions effortless. So you clean the desk the night before, you lay out your workout clothes right next to your bed.
Oh, like chopping your vegetables on Sunday so they are ready to just toss in a pan on Wednesday.
Yes. You are designing a physical world where doing the right thing is the path of least resistance.
But what if, even if the environment is primed, sometimes the habit itself just feels too overwhelming?
That happens a lot, and that's where the 2-minute rule comes in. You downscale the habit until it takes under 2 minutes to start.
Under 2 minutes.
Yeah. So read a book a week becomes read 1 page, run 3 miles becomes tie my running shoes.
See, I think people hear that and think it's a gimmick. Like they think, well, I know I'm tricking myself. My real goal is the 3 miles. But what is the actual psychology there? Why does tying a shoe matter?
Because a habit must be established before it can be improved. I mean, you cannot optimize a behavior that doesn't exist yet.
Oh, wow. That's a great point.
You have to master the art of showing up. If you just establish the identity of someone who ties their running shoes every day at 6 a.m., you are laying the neurological groundwork. You're building the habit loop. The expansion of that habit, the 3 miles, that comes later.
Which leads us right into the final stage of the loop, the reward. Law 4, make it satisfying.
And this introduces the cardinal rule of behavior change. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided.
And immediately is the absolute critical word there, right?
Completely. Because our brains evolved in what scientists call an immediate return environment. You forage for berries, you eat them, you feel full immediately. Action, immediate consequence.
Right, but modern society is a delayed return environment.
Exactly. You work incredibly hard on a project today for a paycheck you won't see for 2 weeks. You save money today for a retirement you won't experience for 30 years. Our brains are simply not wired to value delayed gratification.
You know, a brilliant historical example of this is Wrigley's gum back in the 1890s.
Well, I love the Wrigley story.
It's so good. So chewing gum existed, but it wasn't a daily worldwide habit. It was made from chicle or spruce sap. Basically these bland, tough, tasteless resins. It was totally unremarkable.
Just chewing for the sake of chewing.
Right. But then Wrigley launched brands like Spearmint and Juicy Fruit. They added these sweet, minty flavors that provided an immediate sensory explosion in the mouth.
And that changed everything.
Completely. It wasn't just chewing anymore. It was an instant reward of a fresh mouth. That immediate satisfaction skyrocketed consumption worldwide.
Because they hijacked the reward phase. And we can do this practically today in our own lives.
Yeah.
Take the example of a couple who wanted to stop eating out so much in order to save money.
Which is tough.
Very tough. Cooking at home is high friction. And the reward, having a larger bank account months from now, is deeply delayed. So they created a savings account and named it Trip to Europe.
Right.
And every single time they skipped a restaurant and cooked at home, they immediately transferred $50 into that account.
Oh. So the immediate satisfaction of watching that number tick up provided the dopamine hit right then and there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It replaced the immediate sensory satisfaction they would have gotten from the restaurant meal. It bridges the gap between the present action and the delayed reward.
That is brilliant.
It is. Now, up until this point, we've focused on building loops, building good habits.
Right.
But if our brains are so eager to optimize for easy, satisfying rewards, what happens when we weaponize that against ourselves? Like, how do we dismantle a loop that's already running perfectly, like a bad habit?
Well, according to the source material, you simply invert the 4 laws. To break a bad habit, you make the cue invisible, the craving unattractive, the response difficult, and the reward unsatisfying.
Let's start with making it invisible and difficult. This is all about introducing massive amounts of friction. If you want to stop a behavior, increase the number of physical or mental steps between you and the action.
Think about mindless television watching. Like, If you want to stop falling into the trap of turning on the TV the second you sit on the couch, add Fiction. Unplug it after every use.
Which seems small, but it helps.
Right. But if you still find yourself plugging it back in, take the batteries out of the remote and put them in a drawer.
Make it harder.
And if that is still not enough, physically move the television into a closet after you watch it.
That is intense.
I mean, it sounds completely absurd, but if you have to drag a heavy screen out of a closet, plug it in, and find the batteries just to watch a show, you're only going to do it if you genuinely specifically want to watch something.
It's so true. It powerfully illustrates how lazy our brains are. Just a few extra steps can completely derail an unwanted behavior. A simpler daily example is your phone. If you want to stop checking it constantly while working, just leave it in another room until lunch.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Make the cue invisible and the response difficult.
Exactly. But what about the final step? Making a bad habit unsatisfying. We need to create an immediate cost for the bad behavior. Because, as we established, the delayed costs, like lung cancer or going broke, aren't enough to stop us in the present moment.
Right. And we can look at a macro-level example here. The 1984 New York Seatbelt Law.
Oh, yeah?
Before that law, only 14% of people in the U.S. regularly wore seatbelts. The consequences of not wearing one were catastrophic. I mean, getting thrown through a windshield. But they were delayed and only a possibility, not a certainty.
Right, the brain just rationalizes it. Like, I'm a good driver, I probably won't crash today.
Exactly. The brain dismisses the delayed risk. So the law created an immediate penalty. If you don't wear your seatbelt, you get a ticket and a fine right now. It made the bad habit instantly unsatisfying.
That makes total sense.
And on an individual level, you can achieve this by using a habit contract or getting an accountability partner.
Which brings up, honestly, my absolute favorite tactic from the material. There is an entrepreneur named Thomas Frank who wanted to build a habit of waking up at 5:55 a.m.
A noble goal.
Right, but a warm bed is an immediate reward while being productive is a delayed reward. So he set up an automated script on his Twitter account. If he doesn't manually disable the script by waking up on time, it automatically sends a public tweet that says, "It's 6:10 and I'm not up because I'm lazy. Reply to this for $5 via PayPal."
It is brilliant and it is absolutely brutal.
Right.
It leverages human psychology flawlessly. We care deeply about our social standing. So the pain of looking lazy to our peers, combined with literally losing money in real time, completely overrides the comfort of the bed. By making his failure public, he attached a massive, immediate social and financial cost to sleeping in.
The social cost might just be the ultimate bad habit killer. Knowing someone is watching you or that you'll have to pay a literal public price makes the bad habit incredibly, instantly unsatisfying.
It really does. Yeah. So when you synthesize all of this, it provides a very clear, actionable roadmap. The habit loop of cue, craving, response, and reward is always running in the background of your life. You are always navigating that problem and solution phase.
Yeah. Think of your behaviors as sitting on a spectrum. On the left side are the habits that serve you. On the right side are the habits that hold you back. Whether you are a high school athlete trying to recover from a devastating injury or a professional trying to learn a new skill, your goal is to push your good habits to the left.
Exactly.
You intentionally engineer your life to make those good habits obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. And you push your bad habits to the right by making them invisible, unattractive, hard, and unsatisfying.
But you know, the most crucial takeaway, the thought I want to leave you to mull over, is that there is no finish line. The system of atomic habits isn't about reaching a permanent static state where you are suddenly perfect. It is an endless, continuous rotation through the 4 laws. You are constantly looking for the next bottleneck. You fix one thing, make it automatic, and then the cycle starts again. You ask, how can I make the next step obvious? How can I make it attractive, easy, satisfying, round and round, day after day, aiming to get just 1% better?
Wow. It changes everything when you realize that success isn't a single dramatic movie montage. It's just the slow, steady compounding of tiny actions. When James Clear was lying in that hospital bed wrapped in bandages, struggling with basic bodily functions, he didn't become an academic All-American overnight.
No, not at all.
He just focused on going to bed early. He focused on keeping his dorm room clean. He mastered the small, irreducible units of behavior that, when stacked together over years, produced immense power. An X-ray might show a shattered bone, but it's your invisible, daily atomic habits that dictate how that bone heals and where you walk once you get back on your feet. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.